What is up, you guys? It is Zach, and welcome back to my channel. Now, today, we are going to be talking about the Steam Deck because it's been about a month since I got my grubby little hands all over this thing. And as you guys know from my first impressions video last month, I really enjoyed it. I do want to give a little shout out to everyone who watched that video because that video did surprisingly well. I did not expect that video to do as well as it did, and to get as many likes as it did, and as many comments. So truly, thank you to everyone who watched that video and supported it. I usually talk about Nintendo stuff and very, very different stuff, so to have a video about something like this do as well as it did, it really means a lot. So thank you to everyone who showed support on that video. So now, I want to talk about the Steam Deck 1 month later, and this video is going to have a few different components. The first section of the video is going to be 5 things that I really liked about the Steam Deck. Then I'm going to talk about, some little quirks about the Steam Deck, maybe some things that I would like to see them revise a little bit more in the next iteration of the device. And then I'll show off some more games that I've been playing on this thing because I actually have been playing a lot more games on it, and I do have a lot that I really, really want to say. So if you enjoy this video, definitely do drop a like down below and leave a comment on if you have a Steam Deck OLED, what you think, if you're thinking of getting one. Let me know all that down in the comments down below. So without any further ado, you guys, let's get started. So the first thing that I absolutely love about the Steam Deck is honestly how it feels to hold. Now, a lot of this video will be comparing it to the Nintendo Switch, because of the fact that, I'm a Nintendo gamer, so keep that in mind. So holding this device, like I mentioned in my original video, I feared that it was going to feel big and bulky to hold. I remember when I first saw, trailers of the original Steam Deck when it was first announced, first showed off, I initially thought it looked too clunky and not that visually appealing to me. But then, when I got my hands on the Steam Deck OLED, all of that went completely out the window. It is so comfortable to hold, honestly, because it's a bit bigger. Now, I have kind of medium-sized hands. I don't have small hands, I don't have gigantic hands, I just got medium-sized hands. And the Steam Deck fits in my hands really well. I can see it being an issue for people who definitely have smaller hands, so if you're a little bit younger, or if you just naturally have smaller hands. But for me, it is so comfortable to hold. Admittingly, I do still have to kind of get used to the thumbsticks because there's a lot of travel from the center to, moving left and right and up and down and all of that, at least compared to the Nintendo Switch. Again, that's what I'm used to. So it's still kind of an adjustment. But not bad at all. It feels more in line with a standard, Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo Switch Pro controller, and it really does feel high quality, especially if I'm, getting angry at a game. I can, usually when I get angry in a game, I try to have inner zen and let all my anger out through holding the controller as hard as I can until it's at the point of breaking. And if I did that with the Nintendo Switch, it probably would break, or at least the Joy-Cons would come off of the hinges. But the Steam Deck, I can hold it as tight as I want, obviously not to any extremes, but I can hold it as tight as I want and not have any issues. So I absolutely love how it feels in the hand, and again, the big bulky-ish nature of it actually does make it more comfortable to hold, not more awkward or uncomfortable. Okay, so this next point is going to kind of be 2 points in one, and that is the performance of the system, and the games on the system, and the compatibility of games on the Steam Deck. And that's going to be a really big point I'm actually going to dive a bit deeper into. But let's start with the overall performance of the system. Again, compared to what I'm used to with the Nintendo Switch, it is leagues better. It is when I tried out SpongeBob SquarePants last month and just realized how absolutely smooth it is. And then when I looked at Life is Strange and saw how absolutely crystal clear the cutscenes looked, nothing looked blurry, nothing looked like the textures weren't loading, it all looked perfect. And that's what I want out of a gaming handheld. I want to be able to play those console experiences on the go without many hiccups. Now, as a Nintendo fan, I accept the limitations of the Switch. The console is nearly, 7 years old, and, I've come to accept what the Switch can and cannot do, and I'm completely fine with playing third-party games on the Switch. But switching over to the Steam Deck, everything just feels better, even if it still runs at 30 FPS, certain games run at 30 FPS, at least the ones that I play. The games are still smooth, there's no frame rate dips, and graphically they are a lot clearer and crisper and better than the Nintendo Switch. Most games that I try out on the Steam Deck look absolutely amazing. Now, speaking of, let's quickly touch on compatibility, because this one's a kind of deep one that I do want to explain specifically for people who don't have a Steam Deck yet and want to know if their Steam library will work on the Steam Deck, because it's not as easy as you may think. Now, Steam is great enough to have this whole system that shows you what games are playable on the Switch. Did I say Switch? I meant Steam Deck. And they show off what games are, kind of unsupported or rough. Like, they give you a general idea through these symbols. The problem with these symbols, though, is they're not always the most accurate, or they'll turn you off from some games just because it'll say it's playable or it'll say it's unsupported. I got two big examples of games that I've been playing on my Steam Deck that are absolutely perfectly fine but don't have the green check rating. Firstly, a game that was given the yellow check is The Expanse, a Telltale series. Now, this game is a new game. It came out last year, like towards the, in the second half of last year, and it said it was playable, didn't say it was fully supported, all that jazz. But here's the important thing. When you see a game with this yellow check mark on it, it is important to read the fine print. The devil's in the details, and those details are what describe to you why this game isn't marked as fully supported. Now, looking at The Expanse, here it says the only reason it isn't marked as fully supported is because there are some needs to use some keyboard controls, which will require either using the touchscreen or using a USB or Bluetooth, keyboard. Now, to be fair, I have not beaten this game yet, so I cannot speak to anywhere after episode 1, but so far, the only time I've had to use the keyboard was to sign into Telltale's service, oh, do you want to sign up to the Telltale newsletter or make a Telltale account? That's the only time I've had to use the keyboard and mouse. And even then, I literally just pulled up the keyboard on screen, typed in, and then went forward, and as you can see, playing the game itself, how it runs, how it looks, perfectly fine. No issues. It's just that you really have to read the small print when you're looking at games with this yellow symbol. Now, even with games that are unsupported, this is where it gets a little trickier, because not every game that's marked as unsupported is completely unplayable on the Steam Deck. I've been playing the heck out of Dead Rising 3 on the Steam Deck, and on the Steam store, it's marked as unsupported. And, when I first saw that, I was like, that's really confusing to me, because it's an older game, about 10 years old at this point, and I'm shocked it isn't playable on the Steam Deck. Then, I looked at some YouTube videos, and I'm like, well, it looks like it runs fine on the Steam Deck, so I got it when it was on sale, it was not expensive at all, and I was like, let me just boot it up and try it right away. And you guys, I booted it right up. No issues, no crashes, no graphical bugs, couple little lighting glitches here and there, but that's very common. The game runs at a smooth 30 FPS, which, yes, when I show gameplay later, I'll try to include the FPS thing at the top there, just so you can see how it runs. And honestly, I'm just so surprised that this is marked as unsupported. There's gotta be a way for Steam users to contribute to that, to say, hey, I played this game that says it's unsupported, and it runs perfectly fine. So yeah, overall, you guys, I'm impressed with how well the thing runs. All the games, even the compatibility and the supportness, it makes me want to try out even more of the games that are unsupported and all that, just to see how they are. I've only had a couple games give me some issues, but I'll get into that later on in the video. Next up, this was a big point in the last video I did, and that is the emulation on this thing. The emulation on the Steam Deck is honestly so cool. as you probably saw from the B-roll footage I had in the video, I actually didn't even mention it in the video because when I recorded the video, that was before I had gotten this specific thing set up on the Steam Deck, and that is EmuDeck, I think it's called, where basically you can put all of your emulators right on your Steam Deck, like, and just have them be right on your front page, and it'll automatically install the emulators you need. So Dolphin or RetroArch, like, it'll download whatever emulators you need, and you'll already be set up without having to do much of anything. And then when you download your games, they'll just go right into your Steam library, you know, or not in your Steam library, but your, like, non-Steam games library, and in collections divided by system, which is really freaking cool. And it's just such a really cool thing. I can access my GameCube games right from the home screen. If I'm feeling like I want to play a specific GameCube game, I can do it right from the home screen. Do I want to play a GBA game instead of a GameCube game? Well, I just go over to the GBA menu and play a GBA game. It's not that complicated. And it's so simple to do. I'm a Neanderthal, alright? I am not great with technology. Technology and all, like, specifics about things, not my strong suit. This was so easy that even I could do it. So if emulation is your thing, if you want to take, you know, games like GameCube games and have them be playable wherever you want, and not waiting for Nintendo to release remasters, it's such a great, you know, thing. And you can play modded versions of games on this thing too. You can enter in cheat codes, you know, like action replay codes. You can do everything, and it's so freaking cool. I've actually been playing quite a few games on the emulator as well, and when we get into the showing off games portion, I'll talk about those games as well. This next point is a backhanded compliment almost. It's a compliment that, like, I don't have an issue with it. I can see where other people might not be as sold on it as I am, but for my personal uses, it's completely acceptable, and that's the battery life. Now, I heard horror stories, well, not really horror stories, but I heard that the original Steam Deck, the LCD model from like 2 years ago or whenever, did not have the best battery life. It's, you know, it ran out really quickly, did not, you know, work well, whatever. But the Steam Deck OLED apparently got a improved battery over the original model. So, personally, I had no issues with the battery. I've had a couple times where it's like, you know, like, oh, it's time to plug it in, but it's happened very few and far between. Because I'm one of those people where it's like, I usually don't play for super extended periods of time. And especially with the Steam Deck, if I do, usually I just kind of plug it in and just kind of chill and play with it, like, you know, like just plugged in, perfectly fine, you know, at least for me. And, you know, honestly, it's really not that bad. Especially if you want to use it primarily for the purpose of emulating, then your battery life is going to be way longer than if you were really using it for Steam games. And since I'm kind of using it for both, multi-purpose, both Steam and emulation, I have had no issues so far. Like, if I'm playing something like Dying Light 2 or Dead Rising 3 or The Expanse, I'm only playing for small chunks, and I'm not there for too long. And even, like, I had a couple times where the battery was running low. That's about when I wanted to wrap up anyways, after, like, 3 or 4 hours of playtime. But using emulation, using things like, you know, like Dolphin or RetroArch, I was playing on Christmas Day, I was playing Mario Golf Advanced Tour, and I was playing that a majority of the day. I was playing that, like, basically all day, and I didn't need to plug the Steam Deck in until nighttime. Now, obviously, it's a GBA game, it does not require that much, but it goes to show you, like, if you are a fan of Game Boy Advance games, or if you are a fan of retro games and want to do retro gaming on it, battery life is not something you should be overly concerned about. It's completely fine. Now, if you want to play those bigger, more expansive titles, more modern titles, yeah, battery life is something you're going to have to keep more of an eye on, making sure you're plugging it in after every use, all that jazz, of course. But if you want to use it for the primary joy of retro gaming, not an issue. The last thing I really want to emphasize here that I really like about the Steam Deck, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but it's just the UI. The UI is very user-friendly. I've seen a lot of portable gaming PC kind of, or, you know, like the portable gaming devices. A lot of them require you operating Windows in some capacity, having to use Windows on this tiny screen, and I've personally never cared for that. I never found that appealing. Steam Deck basically relies on the OS. And anything extra you want to do, you might have to open up the desktop mode to do that, and it is Linux, so But, you know, I hardly ever have to do that. Even for my emulation, I access the emulators through the Steam's OS. I don't have to go into desktop mode and open up Dolphin and open up games through that. If I want to play Mario Party 6, I hit Mario Party 6 on the home screen on my Steam Deck on the OS, and it'll open up Dolphin immediately. It doesn't even open up like the Dolphin main screen. It just boots the game right up, and it's so easy to do. And if you use something like EmuDeck, when you install games to your system, it'll automatically, for the most part, install the box art and key art, and like even when you're playing the game, it'll show the icon of the game you're playing, and it just feels so well integrated that the OS of the Steam Deck is just, I'd say, almost perfection. It's easy to navigate, it's really intuitive, and really a joy to use. And even when a game's box art isn't included with EmuDeck, like I had issues with the SpongeBob games where those box arts were Nickelodeon Guts for some reason. That was a really good show back in the day, but I don't know why it thought SpongeBob was Nickelodeon Guts. But nevertheless, it's easy to upload box art. You just download it from the internet, open up EmuDeck, and just throw it in there. It's really simple to do. So yeah, I'm really happy with how easy it is to navigate the Steam OS. If I had any critiques on it, which honestly, I really don't have that many critiques, but I have had a few random bugs happen. I've had a few times where the console has crashed or froze or whatever, and I needed to reboot it. I was playing Dead Rising 3 the other day, and there's like the FPS counter. I forget what it was called, it was like Games Radar or something. It was like, it showed the FPS up in the top corner, which was cool to see, but it randomly popped up, and the only way I could get rid of it was rebooting the system. So a few software updates should be able to tweak these things just a little bit more. And admittingly, these next few things are things that I think they should do for the next system. They're not like, you know, huge complaints I have with this system overall. I definitely hope the system does get lighter, because even though the system is comfortable to hold, it can get heavy after a little while, after extended use, and, you know, sometimes it just become uncomfortable, especially if you're like laying in bed. Like, if you're laying in bed and you drop that thing on yourself, you will feel it. I haven't done it yet, but I dread the day that'll happen. And I hope that, you know, they do a bigger screen as well someday. I want the bezels completely gone. I hate bezels personally. I would like to see, you know, screen right up to where all the controls are. Like, that would be glorious someday. But honestly, I seriously do not have many issues with the Steam Deck. I really don't. It's a great little device, you know? It's very powerful for what it is. It's a great size. It's comfortable. The games run well on it. And obviously, there's room for improvement in the future. But given that this is like the second iteration of the device, it's not that bad. Alright, I got a whole new list. You can't really see because I used the blue pen, but there's a whole new list of games that I played on this thing, and these ones I played a little more extensively than when I did my original demo, you know, back with the first impressions, because it was first impressions, so I only played a little bit. So, let's get started. I started playing Dying Light 2 on the Steam Deck. Now, I'll be honest, this one was marked as fully supported, and it ran fine. You know, it's a good-looking game, but this is a game that has crashed on me a couple times. This is a game that I've had to tweak some things and hasn't quite been perfect. It is completely playable. It is completely supported. It runs fine. It looks fine. It's fine as is. You know, like, no worries if you get it. Like, there will be some slight performance things, but it's not really that big. But I am surprised that this one was marked as completely supported, green check mark, everything's good, and some of these other ones didn't get that. So, I will say that Dying Light 2 definitely has some performance issues on this thing. You'll definitely have to run it at a little bit lower settings to get it to run smoothly, but I could maybe have just not optimized it correctly. If you out there have played Dying Light 2 and know how to optimize the graphics to make it look good, just let me know. I would really like to actually play that game at its best settings. Alright, so now we're going to go into the playable territory. Now, I actually have 3 games here that I've played quite extensively. The first of which being Back 4 Blood. Now, I don't remember the whole list of details with this one, why this one was only marked as playable, but I do believe some of it had to do with the text being small, some keyboard, you know, inputs showing up on screen, and honestly, completely negligible. The game runs perfectly fine. I've been playing quite a bit of it. I do really like Back 4 Blood. It's a really good game. If you like Left 4 Dead, you like co-op shooters, it's a really, really good one. I do recommend it. I've had no issues with it. No crashes, no real severe drops of frame rate, nothing. It's perfectly fine. I had no issues with it. The next one, I think I mentioned a little bit earlier, and that is Telltale's The Expanse. Now, this one, I only played the first chapter of it, so I can't say too much. And again, the playable warning was only because of the keyboard coming on screen. And yeah, like I said, literally no issues with this one. If you are interested in this game, if you like Telltale games, if you like sci-fi games, we get to be in outer space and travel in zero Gs, and, you know, like, it's a very narrative, story-heavy game. If you like that, I highly recommend you check out The Expanse. I mean, like I said, I'm only an episode deep so far, but I do really like it. It is also developed by Don't Nod, or is it Deck 9? I think actually it might be Deck 9. Whichever. You know, people behind Life is Strange. Life is Strange devs and freaking Telltale working together, like, come on, like, that's a recipe for greatness. It's a great game so far. I do recommend it, and it looks great on the Steam Deck. Call of Duty Black Ops 3. This one actually might be, besides The Quarry, the game I had the most issues with. And ironically enough, it's marked as playable, so I'm really confused, again, why this one's playable, but The Expanse is also in the same caliber. To me, I had issues with this one. I particularly play Call of Duty for zombies. That's what I play, and admittingly, in-game, completely fine. I had no issues running zombies, you know, playing Call of Duty and all that jazz. But after every round I played, the game just crashed. It would just crash every time. You know, every time I died in zombies, you know, whatever, I go to the main menu, it would crash. Don't know why it happens, it just kinda does, and it's kind of unfortunate because I like playing zombies. It's one of those games where I'm like, oh, I want to try again, I want to try again. But if the game crashes after every attempt, I might not go back to it. And it sucks because I did buy the Zombie Chronicles DLC with like Kino and Nocturne on Toten and all the classic maps. Like that's like, I love that stuff. And I even downloaded the modded maps, which I only tried one modded map, being the SpongeBob map, and oh my god, that one did not work. I don't know if it's the mod itself, even though it was pretty highly rated, or if it was something about the Steam Deck. I don't know what happened here. It just did not, like, things were not loading in properly. It was not good. I don't know. It was just not great. So yeah, Black Ops 3 is the one, you know, besides The Quarry, that I had the most trouble with. So, it is kind of unfortunate, but, you know, maybe there's another way to fix it. Again, if you've played Black Ops 3 on the Steam Deck and you've gotten it to run perfectly, let me know what I need to do, because I would love to be able to play more zombies on that thing. Alright, so going over to the not supported category, I have two games here, completely different games, but they're games nonetheless. The first of which being Dead Rising 3, which I mentioned earlier. This thing runs completely fine. Again, this thing runs better than Black Ops 3 does. Why is that one marked as, you know, playable, but this one's not supported? I guess it has to do with testing and who's testing out games, but if Valve is watching this, Dead Rising 3 is perfectly playable. It's perfectly fine, no issues whatsoever. I've been playing this game, I think I've logged in like 15, 20 hours now. No issues whatsoever with this game. It's really, really good. I don't know why it's marked as unsupported. For me, it's a green check mark. I'll be honest, this game I only got so I can play it with my grandmother, because her and I always do trivia, so don't judge me for this one. But I got Who Wants to Be a Millionaire on the Steam Deck. Says it's unsupported, but again, runs perfectly fine. No issues. It's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It's not a complicated game. It's not a big game. It's not anything too crazy, too intricate. It's a trivia show game. It's fine. Like, it's it's not gonna run poorly. Alright, so now I'm going to show you some more retro games. I've got 5 games I'm going to show you, and I'm actually going to show you more than just the GameCube. I'm going to show you N64, GBA, and GameCube again, some other GameCube games. So, firstly, for the Nintendo 64, I'm going to show you some Mario Party 2. Mario Party 2 is an absolute classic. Everyone loves this one. I don't really need to say much more about it. Really, the whole purpose of this is just for me to show you how N64 emulation runs on this thing, how it looks, especially, you know, compared to the Nintendo Switch Online service that has N64 now. So, in case you're thinking of getting this thing, you really want to play some N64 games on the go, you can use this thing. Now, the one thing I haven't tried out, honestly, is how something like NetPlay would work, or how you can do, like, online gaming using these things. That, I don't know. That is, again, beyond my caliber. I'm not a techie kind of guy. Is it possible? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if you can get Parsec running on the Steam Deck. I don't know. But, yeah, Mario Party 2 runs perfectly fine. Banjo-Kazooie. I'll be honest, I haven't tried this one on the Steam Deck yet. This one I actually haven't tried, but I do want to try because, again, it's on the Switch, but it's also on the Xbox. Now, I honestly don't know if you can get Xbox Game Pass on this thing. Again, I haven't tried everything I could possibly try on this thing yet, so bear with me. But Banjo-Kazooie, I'm sure runs perfectly fine. You're seeing it here. You're seeing how it runs. If you want to get this game for N64 emulation, these two games are probably the best examples you can get. One really simple game, one a little more intricate, graphically intense game for N64 standards. I really hope that worked as well as I intended it to. Next up, I'm going to show you the one lone Game Boy Advance game I'm going to talk about in this video, and that's Mario Golf Advance Tour. I played the heck out of this. I actually completely beat the game, both singles and doubles, all tourneys, all match plays, everything. As you can see, I've unlocked every character. Like I even did a little cheat code to get the GameCube. You know, the 4 Mario characters that were exclusive to the GameCube version onto the Game Boy Advance. I did all of that, and it was absolutely top tier. But yeah, it's a great game. Now, honestly, something I did notice with this version of the game, I don't know if it's the emulation. I don't know if it's the ROM that I actually got. But there's actually spelling mistakes in the text. Like it would sometimes substitute commas with the letter C. I don't know if I'll be able to get this on camera for you, but like talking to some characters, sometimes like the letter C would just be implemented where it's not supposed to be. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of funny. That could completely be the ROM I got, or just an error with the emulator. I don't know, but I thought it'd be a funny detail to share. 2 more GameCube games I actually really gave a fair shot to, one of which being Super Smash Bros. Melee. Obviously, this is a fan favorite. A lot of people really like this one. You know, it's definitely one of the more popular. And honestly, I'm not a Smash Brothers player, so apologies for the poor gaming you're probably seeing on screen right now. But if you're a pro GameCube player, I can't say particularly how faithful it is, how easy it'll be for you to adapt to the controls on a Steam Deck controller as opposed to a GameCube controller. But if you get the Steam Deck dock, I like that, you could probably hook up like a USB GameCube controller or something to it so that you can actually use a GameCube controller while using your Steam Deck. It'll just require some extra steps. The last game I got is a game I actually played for the podcast that I'm on, Mid-Byte Hour. Go and check out the episode we did on it here. I played Sonic Adventure through emulation. You know, I didn't get the Steam version. I did it through Dolphin, and it ran perfectly fine. It looks great, runs great, is great. I mean, I didn't care that much for Sonic Adventure, but it was a good game, and it ran really well. That's the important thing, that it ran really well on the Steam Deck, and I think anyone who is a Sonic fan will probably enjoy it if they prefer the original DX over the Steam port. So there you have it, guys. That is my thoughts on the Steam Deck 1 month later, and oh my god, this is a long video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if I've convinced you to get a Steam Deck down in the comments down below. I would truly appreciate to hear what you have to say, as, you know, a lot of people said that, you know, my video had actually got them interested in the Steam Deck, and it's really cool to have had that effect on people, and I'm happy that you guys watched and enjoyed that last video, and hopefully you watched and enjoyed this one as well. Well, obviously you watched it if you made it this far, but whatever. Drop a like, all that kind of stuff, you guys. You all know the deal. And until next time, you guys, I'll see you all in the next video.